The other probability is the probability of the resurrection on the background information and the evidence, and that probability could be very high. So there's no contradiction at all in saying that an intrinsically improbable event is the most probable event given the evidence. There's just no contradiction at all. So it's an enormous blunder on Ehrman's part. It shows that he simply doesn't understand probability theory or how to compute the probability of the resurrection hypothesis. One final point that I want to make. Let's go back to Ehrman's egregious error. You remember we saw that he assumes that the probability of the resurrection on the background information is very low. He just assumes that. But how does he know that? Why is the hypothesis God raised Jesus from the dead highly improbable on our background information? Whether this is very low or not will depend on whether or not the background information includes the existence of God. Now, if the background information includes, as I think, the cosmological argument, the teleological argument, the moral argument, the ontological argument, then I don't see any reason to think that the probability of the resurrection on that background information is terribly low. Because the background information includes the fact that God exists. So, what is the probability that God would raise Jesus from the dead relative to our background information, which includes that God exists and all of our information about the historical Jesus, including his radical personal claims to be the Son of Man and the divine revelation of God? Well, I can't see any reason to think that that's highly improbable. So, what I would agree with Ehrman, what's highly improbable is that Jesus rose naturally from the dead. That is highly improbable. Corpses don't just come back to life. It's highly improbable that Jesus rose naturally from the dead, given our background information. But given our background information, especially if that includes the existence of God and Jesus' radical personal claims, I just can't see any reason to think that the probability of R on B is very low. And if that's right, then it just completely evacuates his argument of any significance, because then the probability of R on B is not unacceptably low. And therefore the probability of the resurrection on the background information and the evidence can be very high indeed. Well, there's a lot more that I could say about this. The transcript of my debate with Bart Ehrman is available on our website, reasonablefaith.org. And you can read yourself how Bart Ehrman responds to my charges that he has committed an egregious error and an enormous blunder, and see whether or not you think he has a convincing response. I don't think that he does. And therefore, I don't think that he has good grounds for denying that Jesus of Nazareth was who he claimed to be and that God raised him from the dead in vindication of those radical claims. All right, do we have time for any questions?